Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So nice to see you all. Thanks for being here on time. That's better, Nikki. Now you're not muted.
Yeah, but I will mute soon, and I'll soon take my picture off as well.
Yeah. That's fine.
Thanks,
No worries
Katie.
at all. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it is a personal thing. If you'd rather not have your camera on, you certainly don't have to.
It also helps with the transmission of it all.
Yeah, that's right. For some people, it is easier to have no camera on. So absolutely, that's totally fine. Now, everyone can obviously hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. Very, very good. Now I'm just waiting. I had someone just email me just before we started saying they couldn't find the Zoom details. So I'm just making sure that they're... Oh, is that you, Manny? Ah, good. So have you... Oh, you found it all. Okay, excellent. Excellent. That's very good. Okay.
Junk folder, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, I know that does happen a bit. Sorry, I should have mentioned that too. A lot of my emails go to junk, unfortunately. Tan, that's okay. No worries at all. Thank you. What I will get you to do, though, is just to introduce yourself in the chat box for me, Tan, if that's okay, because that's the only thing that I'll need to hear from you. So, yes, welcome, everybody. My name's Katie. So I'm the person who will be running the group sessions over the next 12 months. I am based in Shepparton, so in regional Victoria. This is where I work and live.
Katie, there's a chat message from Tan to say he hasn't got audio.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so he's just going to
sort himself out.
But Tan, can you hear me?
No.
I thought he meant he couldn't.
I don't think he can hear you.
But he was saying his audio was, as in like his microphone wasn't working. But if everyone else can hear me, it might be...
microphone on his computer, because like I'm using my laptop and it works really well, but my desktop actually doesn't have a microphone or a camera. So it depends on what you're using. It may be on it, it might not be.
Yeah, exactly. But if all of you can hear me, then it...
he's got it.
Oh, can you hear me now? But he might just be saying, yes, he'll log in and out. Yeah, okay. Yes, it might be at his end, because if you can all hear me, I feel as though it might be his setup. So we'll wait to see. But that's okay. We can slowly get started. Yes, so I live and work in Shepparton and am a nutritionist by trade, but I do this work for Diabetes Victoria as well, and I've been doing it for a long time now, but I do really enjoy it, and I find that everyone gets a lot out of the life program. So hopefully it's the same for you all, and you learn a lot over the course of the next 12 months. Tonight's session is quite light on. It's just more about we look into diabetes risk and cardiovascular disease and that type of thing. And then in 2 weeks' time, we will have a session on nutrition, and then physical activity, and then wellbeing and wellness. And then we go away and we come back together at the 6-month mark and the 12-month mark. So that's how the next 12 months will look for everybody. A little bit, I'll get each of you to introduce yourselves tonight, but what do I do? I have 3 daughters. So my daughters are quite young. They're 8, 6 and 4, but they're very busy, of course. I do really love to cook. You can hear me now, Tan? Excellent. That's good. Welcome. So yes, but I love living in Shepparton, and my husband's from the same area as well. So we've been here a lot of years now, which has been really great. But I would like to hear from each of you, mainly just to say where you are dialing in from tonight, but also why you are doing the life program. So I think it's nice to hear from everyone why they are doing it. So Manny, simply because of where you are on my screen, I'll get you to go first if that's okay.
Yep, no worries. I'm located in Chirnside Park, Victoria. So that's near the winery, Yarra Valley Winery area, just around the corner.
Nice.
Lots of golf courses, really nice place here. So my interests are, well, I'm a professional salesperson, so I sell technical equipment. Probably my favourite things currently is using technology. So I do plans on drawings and ArchiCAD, things like that. So that's really exciting technology. And I like cooking. So my wife and I, one night I cook, the other night she cooks, including cleaning. Breakfast is the same thing. So tonight it was my turn to cook. And I'm doing this program to motivate me to get out of COVID excuses.
Yes, absolutely. I think everyone can relate to the COVID excuses. Absolutely. Welcome, Manny. It's lovely to have you. Greg, how are you tonight?
Good, thank you.
That's good.
So I'm based in Mitcham, so on the eastern side of Melbourne, towards Ringwood.
Yeah.
I'm here because my doctor diagnosed me pre-diabetic with I think just the amount of sugar I had on my red blood cells. So I'm here just to make sure that I'm doing everything I can. And I've probably lived a relatively active lifestyle. I like to do all types of sports. My probably favourite sport at the moment is trail running. But I get injured sometimes, so I also row quite a bit. I used to row when I was in my sort of late 20s over in London, which was a nice time of my life before I have 2 kids now. So it's also a nice time, but it's a lot busier time. I live here from New Zealand originally, but we've been here for about 16 years.
Yeah, fantastic. Good on you. Nice active lifestyle. That's great. Nikki, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I live in Baronia. I'm just recently retired, and the doctors threatened me with a big stick. And I have to sort out the help of a dietitian, but just as quickly as seeking help, I go off the rails. So yeah, I'm hoping a bit more motivation. Yeah, we'll get there.
Absolutely, Nikki. That's right. Absolutely. We'll keep you on the straight and narrow. Don't worry.
Maybe.
Yeah. Tan, so nice to see you. And I'm glad you can hear me now. How are you? Tan, hang on a minute. Maybe are you muted? We can't hear you. No. As Manny said, do you have a microphone on your...
Yep.
Maybe not. We can't hear you, but do you want to just type in the chat box for me? If you can introduce yourself there. Don't stress too much. It's totally fine. There's always teething issues on the first session, so there's no worries at all. If you want to just introduce yourself in the chat box, then no, we can't hear you. No, sorry. But do not worry at all. By the next session, I'm sure you'll be totally sorted. Yes, you type in there and I'll keep going, okay? Melissa.
Hi, I'm from the Yarra Valley area as well, like a lot of people actually that have introduced themselves tonight.
Yeah, nice.
I live in London. I'm a nurse and I'm a really keen cook as well. And I think the coming out of COVID comment was very valid. Just feeling like that too, just needing the size and hydration and the whole bit. Yeah, and I've got 4 kids and I've got 3 grandchildren. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. 4 children. You're very good. That's a lot. You must have been very busy.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Well, we're so pleased to have you. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Rosemary, can you hear me?
I can. The dog's just decided she wants to go out. I'm just doing that.
Oh, you're fine. Don't worry.
I'm I live in Heidelberg. I'm retired, been retired quite a few years. Motivation for doing this is, like everyone else, need to move a little bit more and get over the COVID excuse of avoiding crowds, etc., to do so and to lose a little bit of weight.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, good on you. Well, that's great. We're pleased that you're here. It's excellent. And last but not least, Hanan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good.
So I'm located in Roxburgh Park, so in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. I've got 2 daughters, primary school age. And the reason why I signed up for this program is just like everyone else, so like post-COVID, being at home for 2 years obviously didn't do that good for our health, I suppose. Yeah, and I have this thing where I would go on like a healthy, diet, lifestyle, everything for a few weeks and then go back to my default habit. So it was
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I think everyone can relate there. There's certainly some common themes coming up. So I think it's a great time for everyone to be getting motivated and starting to, come out of the COVID cloud and hopefully make some positive change. So that is great. And I'm pleased that you're all here. It's really good. So tonight's session will be simply about, here's Tan. I've been waiting for you, Tan. That's good. No, you're fine. Don't apologise. So Tan's in Ringwood, 2 children. He is pre-diabetic as well. Yeah, and absolutely. He used to be really active, but has since lost motivation. Need a kickstart. Excellent. I think everyone can relate there, Tan. Everyone's needing a kickstart to get remotivated and reinvigorated again with their health and well-being. So I think that's a fantastic reason to be here tonight. And I will just say that this program is, I'm sure I've said it to each of you already, but it is 100% a marathon. It is not a sprint. So you won't have immediate results. You won't see in a week's time that you're feeling healthier or feeling more active on things. We need to it takes time to rebuild healthy habits again. So, but with small, simple changes, we will eventually lead to big, significant changes. So just to sort of put that out there so no one's expecting, the big sort of dramatic changes. I think when you see, before and after photos and you see the stuff that the media puts out there, it can be a bit confusing for people because they think that changes to your health and well-being should be immediate. But it does take time and you will fall off the horse and you will have to get back up on it again and you'll fall off again and you'll probably keep falling off repeatedly. But as long as we're making little small steps and small progress, then that's all that anyone can ever ask. So it sounds as though you're all feeling motivated and you're all feeling ready for change. That's all I can ask. So that's fantastic. So I've got some slides that I'm going to share and I'll take you through. Please, if you have any questions, this is not a lecture. You don't need to sit quietly until the end of the session. You can put it in the chat box or you can just interrupt me. You don't need to wait until the very end for questions. So please ask away if you do have any questions. I'm just going to share my screen. Hang on, just let me bring that up.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, so nice to hear your voice, Tom. Okay, now can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes, all good? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. That's great. Okay, so the life program, session 1. Let's go. So yes, how should the life group sessions work? So as you all did so well tonight, please be on time. Now, of course, if you're running late or you're stuck in traffic or life is happening, do not worry at all. But if you can try and be here at 7 o'clock just so we can get started, that is always appreciated. Turn your mobile to silent. Give everybody a chance in the group to ask questions. There's always in a group, you've always got lots of different personalities. There's some people who don't like to talk a lot, others like to talk a lot. So it's important that we just respect everybody and give everyone a chance to ask questions if they need to. No talking over the top of other people. No gossip that's been what gets discussed in these groups remains in these groups. And I suppose that one is probably more so because a lot of times I run sessions where it's just people from Shepparton. And so there's been occasions where, you know, the first session has started and someone knows somebody else in the group. So it's more in that sort of situation, but this is a private group and we do keep things confidential. So just reinforcing that. And yes, please do let me know if you can't attend the session. I will always be recording the sessions. So if you can't attend, I'm able to send you a recording and we can touch base in other ways, but I do just need to know that you're not going to be there for that night. That's all. Try to keep to the topic being discussed, but I mean, that's, yeah, these are nice rules to mention, but of course there will be times where we just go totally off track and that's fine as well. So the LIFE program is only in Victoria and the other states are very envious of us because the program has been so successful. What the government really wants to do is, because diabetes is becoming such a major issue for Australians, they're trying to invest as much money into preventing people from being diagnosed with diabetes. So hence the LIFE program was developed. So this is an old slide now. I really do need to update this, but it's more like 60,000 Victorians have been through this program. And absolutely, they were all able to improve their healthy eating behaviours, their physical activity levels went up, their body mass index went down, their weight went down, and also their waist circumference. So really positive outcomes from going through the group, which is fantastic. By the end of the program, 70% of participants had achieved their fat and fibre intake. So what we'll be working towards is lowering your fat intake and increasing your fibre intake. There's lots of really, really good research now to show that the more fibre that you consume, the better, and that lowers your risk of developing these lifestyle-related diseases. As well, physical activity levels were increased by 10 to 15 minutes per day. People's weight reduced. As I said, their waist circumference also reduced by a number of centimetres. And really, most importantly, the risk of type 2 diabetes also significantly decreased. So that's the main aim of the game at this stage. And everyone sort of really enjoyed the program and would recommend it. So tonight's session is just a bit of an overview, just to sort of paint the picture as to why we all are here. So what is diabetes, cardiovascular disease, what's putting me at risk, how can I reduce my risk? And also at the end, we'll sort of touch upon a little bit of nutrition stuff just to get us sort of ready for session 2, which will be a full hour of non-stop nutrition. So we'll touch on a few key points at the end of that as well. So the reason why the state government has been putting so much money into this area is because at this stage, what we know is that more than 1 in 4 Australian adults has at least one of these conditions, so diabetes, heart disease, or stroke. Someone is diagnosed with one of these conditions every 5 minutes of the day, and heart disease and stroke kills 1 Australian every single 12 minutes. So, and I think in the last sort of 6 months, I suppose, there's been a lot more we've seen in the media of people, of men particularly, unfortunately, but dying from heart conditions at what we would say is a very young age. So this is a really serious problem. And even though you feel well, it's what you're doing on the day-to-day that is so important. So this stuff really needs to be promoted more so. And we know that, you know, you might feel that you're doing the right things, but actually there's still some changes that could be made. So they are really serious diseases, all of those. Starting with diabetes. So you don't develop diabetes overnight per se. Diabetes is the chronic, so it's long-term elevated glucose in your blood. So whenever you eat any food, what happens is the food goes into your stomach, and then it's broken up and it's broken down into digestible molecules. Now, all the food will be broken down into glucose, because glucose is the molecule in which your body uses. So glucose goes into every single cell of your body. So all of the muscles, all of the organs, into your bloodstream, everywhere throughout your body. And that's how your body uses the food that we eat. Glucose is the main energy source for your brain. So it's going everywhere. It's flooding our system. When our system is working adequately, we eat food, we digest it in our gut, and then that glucose gets broken down in the top of our digestive system, and then it gets filtered out. So let's say it went to a muscle cell, it's in the bloodstream, and then it gets taken up. So let's say we go and do some exercise and our muscles say, oh, I need some glucose. So then that glucose is used and it gets absorbed into the muscle cell. Now there's a little receptor on that cell, which is like a gateway, I suppose. And it's insulin that allows the glucose to come in and out of that cell. But sometimes what can happen is when we are eating, say, too much food, so we've got too much glucose being produced, or we're eating a diet that's full of saturated fat and sugar and salt, so all the sort of not things that we don't want to be eating too much of. Over a period of time, as I said, 12 to 3, 4, 5, 6 years of eating like that, what happens is that the insulin receptors begin to wear down. So what happens is that when that glucose needs to be used, it can't be used by the cell as readily as it should be. So eventually what happens is that it's not using it properly. So then we have this excessive amount of glucose that's just circulating around in our bloodstream because it's not being used like it should be. The cells can't get it in the way they used to. So that's what starts to happen. That's when we start to move into the stages of pre-diabetes and then eventually diabetes, because then we're finding that, oh, the glucose levels are just way too high. We need to now be providing this person with some artificial insulin to assist the body to shunt that glucose out of the bloodstream and into the working cells. So as you can see, this doesn't happen overnight. This happens over a long period of time, but it's the way in which we're living our lives. It's exercising or not exercising. It's the type of foods we're eating, the alcohol we're drinking. It's all these things that contribute to it. And as well, it needs to be mentioned too that you might be someone who eats really well and exercises a load, but you've still got high glucose. And so genetics overrules a lot of the way in which we live. So sometimes for some of us, it's our genetics working against us, and that's why we've got that excess glucose built up in our bloodstream. But in a bit of a sort of small nutshell, that's basically the way in which diabetes works. So that's what we're trying to combat during this program. We're trying to learn how best to live to try and ensure that that buildup of glucose in our bloodstream doesn't continue to happen. So complications of diabetes, and there are a lot of complications with diabetes. It can affect our sight. So people with diabetes can have some vision issues, amputations, particularly of the legs and the toes and the feet, kidney failure. We can have erectile dysfunction, nerve damage. So you start to sort of see that wear and tear on your nerves. You start to get sort of really pins and needles and that kind of feeling, heart attacks and strokes, and also gum disease. So we see people with diabetes that because of all the effect on the blood system, they start to sort of develop this type of gum disease and gum issues in their mouth. So it's not a very enjoyable disease, that's for sure. Now, there are 3 types of diabetes. The one in which we are wholly and solely focusing on in this program is type 2 diabetes. So type 1 diabetes, generally speaking, you were born with type 1 diabetes. So this is diabetes where there's not much you can do about that. It's not related or strongly linked to your lifestyle. So we're not focusing on that at all in this program. Type 2 diabetes is the one that we are really drilling into over the next 12 months, because this is the type of diabetes that we can avoid. It is strongly linked to our lifestyle. So that's the one that we're focusing on. Gestational diabetes is diabetes that women can be diagnosed with during pregnancies. So when of course, you're carrying a child, there's lots of lots of other things that happen, but particular women can be at higher risk of developing gestational diabetes. Now, if you are a woman who's been diagnosed with gestational diabetes, your risk of then going on to develop type 2 diabetes is significantly higher. So they are very intricately linked, the two of those. But again, type 2 diabetes is the one that we are really focusing on for this program. As it says there, type 2 diabetes is the most common form of diabetes. However, it is highly preventable. There are so many things in which we can be doing to try and prevent the development of type 2 diabetes. Some of the common signs and symptoms that people experience is increased thirst, and not just I'm feeling thirsty tonight. Like, it's an insatiable thirst. I need to drink a lot of water. They'll feel incredibly tired, fatigued. They'll be constantly feeling sort of hungry, like you can't be satisfied. Going to the toilet a lot, feeling like you've got that urge to do wee a lot of the time. Infections, skin rashes, you get sort of itchy, tingly skin, chronic headaches, your vision starts to be a little bit blurry. When you do hurt yourself, people find that their wounds take a lot longer to heal. And again, the tingling and numbness of feet. So that's again coming down to your circulation system being affected from the excessive glucose in your body. So coming from diabetes, which again is what we're really focusing on, but also having a look at cardiovascular disease. So again, this is as a result of poor dietary and lifestyle choices over a long time. So this is, again, you don't develop cardiovascular disease from one fatty meal. You know, this is a build-up over a long period of time, from smoking, from drinking, from eating, poor choices, etc. But basically what happens is that the sort of, as you can see there, the lining of the artery becomes sort of layered with what we call a cholesterol plaque. And so that starts to block the vessels. And so as a result, they become narrow and it becomes sort of harder for blood to come through. But also, if then a blood clot is thrown, then when that tries to pass through that blockage, that blocked artery as such, it becomes permanently blocked. And then that's when, as soon as the heart can't pump the way it likes to pump, if there's a fault somewhere in the system, then we can see the results of cardiovascular disease. That blood flow is restricted, and from the fatty deposits and from the narrowing of the vessels, and then heart attack ensues. So again, it's not something that happens overnight, but it is something that can be a build-up. So this is what we're certainly trying to avoid, is that cholesterol plaque build-up in the vessels. Yes, Tan?
Katie, once the cholesterol plaque build up, is it permanent, or can you reduce it so you can have better flow?
Yeah, good question. I think I couldn't say for sure that you would definitely be able to reverse it, but you would certainly be able to slow down the sort of build up of it. But absolutely, by changing your lifestyle and things, it would just prevent the continuation of the buildup of the fatty plaque as such. So it's not like diabetes where you can absolutely reverse diabetes. People who have been diagnosed as pre-diabetic have been shown to be able to reverse that and then not be diagnosed with as pre-diabetes. The cardiovascular disease stuff is a little bit trickier. The plaque, I mean, some of it may come away, but you could never be sure that it was definitely sort of, unless you had a proper sort of, investigation through your arteries. So it's not as easily diagnosed or checked as the diabetes as the pre-diabetes is, but absolutely, by changing your lifestyle, you would be able to slow down that development of the plaque for sure. That's a great question. Good one. So going on with cardiovascular disease, so coronary heart disease, I should say, is the most common form of heart disease. So that's the one that we've just mentioned. So this is simply where a blood clot blocks a coronary artery, which then results in a heart attack. And of course, as we know, it's very likely to be fatal. The same can then occur in your brain. Ischemic stroke is when a blood vessel to the brain becomes blocked by a blood clot. So again, you've got that sort of narrowing of the vessels in your brain, and then a clot is thrown or a clot moves, and again that blockage occurs, and so then you get the blockage in your brain. And then hemorrhagic stroke occurs when an artery in your brain breaks or bursts. So rather than a blockage, this is when there's sort of pressure that's building, and then the vessel itself actually bursts, and then you get a bleed on the brain. So again, this is not to scare anyone. It's not to sort of, I mean, it's all pretty doom and gloom news at this point, but it's not to scare people, but it's just to really put visuals on what can happen if we're not making the right choices. So what puts you at high risk? So the non-modifiable risk factors. So these are the things that you have no control over. And of course, the first one being your age. So as we age, we are at greater risk of developing these sorts of conditions. Your gender, unfortunately for men, you're simply at greater risk than women, purely because of your gender. Family history, if you've got a family history of diabetes or cardiovascular disease, that it does put you at greater risk of developing those things yourself. Your cultural background, there are particular cultures that have a much greater incidence rate of diabetes and cardiovascular disease and stroke. And like I mentioned, gestational diabetes. So if you have been diagnosed with that, then it is much more likely that you'll be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes as you get older. The things that we can change, the modifiable risk factors, are being inactive. If you're somebody that's not being active, it's very simple to put on a pair of comfortable shoes and go for a walk. That's an easy one to fix. An unhealthy diet. If you're somebody that's consistently making poor food choices, let's do something about that. Let's try and make some healthier choices. Being overweight, if you're carrying a lot of extra weight, then we can do something about that. Your high blood pressure, we can absolutely do something about that. If you're smoking, the obvious thing we can do about that is cut down or stop. And then your high cholesterol. So if you're being more active and improving the types of foods that you are eating, it absolutely will have a positive effect on your weight, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol levels. So those two things make a big, big difference for the other areas. How can you reduce your risk? Well, obviously, that's what we're here for this life program. That's what we're here to do. We're trying to reduce our risk. And absolutely, the key to all this is making small lifestyle changes. We've all sort of seen the diets where they say, cut out this entire food group, or only eat between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. You know, we've all seen those really intensive dietary changes, but it doesn't have to be like that. You just need to make the small, consistent steps, and they will have the big difference. As I just mentioned, you can absolutely adjust the way that you're eating. If you're smoking, the amount of alcohol and sugary sweetened beverages that you're drinking, and the amount of exercise that you're doing. Of course, you're going to attend all the life sessions. That's going to help reduce your risk. And be really positive with what you can achieve. Don't expect too much. Make the small steps, make the small goals, and make them really attainable. That's the one thing that I've done with all of you in your intro session, is to start off with a couple of easy health goals that we can absolutely achieve. Be a role model with your family and friends. Tell people that you're doing this program, and be really honest and open about it. You know, be the person that says, I'm not going to have that bit of cake with coffee today because I'm actually really trying to work towards my health and my well-being. I'm going to put myself first, and this is why I'm doing it. This is what I'm doing. So be that person, be the leader in your group, in your family. There are some life goals that we like to just remind you about, which I'm not so concerned about the numbers as such, but it is just for you all to be aware of. So decreasing the amount of fat that you are eating, and more importantly, decreasing the amount of saturated fat and trans fats that you are eating. But we'll go into this a lot more in the nutrition session. This is just a bit of an intro. Increasing the amount of fiber that you eat, absolutely the biggest thing everyone can be doing, and decreasing the amount of salt or sodium that you're consuming. Everyone is going to increase the amount of physical activity they're doing. And if all those things happen, then as a result, you will also lose a little bit of weight, which would be great. The Life program will help you to make a plan to change your behavior. We've already started that. We've already set up a couple of health goals. We've already decided what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Plan what you need to get ready and develop a plan to deal with the things that get in the way of your goals. So for the next 12 months, we are prioritizing all of you and your health and well-being. Just to mention, so a lot in my practice, what I see time and time again is that it's not so much what people are eating, it is the amounts that they are eating. So it is more about the portion control than anything else. So introducing this idea of energy balance early on is just a nice way to sort of set the scene. So basically, if you imagine that you've got a set of scales and you've got your energy that's coming in, which is the food that you're consuming, and then you've got the energy that goes out. So that's the exercise, that's the physical activity that you are doing. If the amount that's coming in is a lot and there's not much going out, of course, what happens is that you will start to put on weight because the energy is coming in. There's nothing for your body to do with it because you're not exercising, you're not expending any energy. So all that your body can do is store it. If you're eating too much and you're not moving enough, your body only has one option, which is to store it, and it will store it as fat. It will use what it needs at that time. If there's any repairing that it needs to do, or there's any sort of maintenance that it needs to do, it will use those bits and pieces of it, but majority of it will be stored as fat. Okay. On the flip side, if you don't have much energy coming in, as in you're not eating a lot, but you're exercising a whole lot, then you will start to lose weight because the amount of energy that's coming in is only a small amount, but you're expending a lot. So your body's having to break down its muscles and use all of the fat stores to provide the energy in which you require to do all of the exercise that you're doing. Neither of those options are ideal. What the aim of the game is to keep you nice and stable. Now, of course, some of you may like to see a bit of weight loss at the beginning, but you won't continue to lose weight forever. Your body will eventually get to a plateau and then it will feel comfortable and then you will hopefully maintain. It might be Christmas time and you gain a couple of kilos and then you get really busy in summer and then you lose a little bit of weight. So there will be times that it goes like that a little bit, but the aim of the game is to keep your balance stable. Constantly putting on weight and then constantly losing weight, it becomes a really exhausting cycle. So that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to keep our energy balance nice and stable and get to the point where we know that the amount of food that we require that feels good, that we feel satisfied, but we don't feel too full. We don't feel uncomfortable. The amount of food that's coming in is appropriate for the amount of exercise that's going out. So balancing a portion size, I will go into this a lot more in the next sessions, but just to sort of introduce an idea to get you started, for some people, simply reducing the size of the plates and the bowls that they use can be really, really helpful. If your family's got really huge big plates or really big deep bowls, then simply reducing that size can be really helpful because it prevents you from sort of, consuming way too much food. But another nice way to think about it is the plate model, where you look at your plate and you fill half of your plate with color. So you fill half of your plate with veggies, with salad, with all of the fibrous foods. And then one of the other quarters is your protein. So that might be your chicken, your red meat, your tofu, your beans, that type of thing. And then the other quarter of the plate is your rices and your grains, your couscous, your pasta, that type of thing. Now, of course, not every single meal will fit into that framework, but the idea for you to start playing with in your mind is, I want the majority of my meals, I want them to have a lot of color. So if I'm sitting down at dinner time and I see I've got a bit of chicken on my plate and I've got some pasta, I need some color here. What can I add to this? Is it just a handful of leaves? Is it just some chopped up tomatoes? What can I add to this to give it more fiber, but to be filling me up with lower density lower energy density foods, because you can eat a lot of vegetables and you can eat a lot of salad greens and that type of thing. It will fill you up, but you won't have the same sort of energy that your body's then got to deal with and break down. So it's just a good sort of rule of thumb to get familiar with. I need to eat lots of color. Where I can, I'll have half of my plate full of veggies and color, and then I'll have my protein, and then I'll have my grains. So it's just a nice sort of framework to start to get familiar with. What I'm going to ask you to do for the next well, it's up to you. If I was seeing you privately, I would ask each of you to do a 7-day food diary. So you can do 7 days if you would like, or you can do 3 days. So as long as one of your days is a weekend day, because a lot of people tend to eat quite differently during the week as they do to the weekends. So we're going to track your eating and physical activity that you are doing. So the reasons why I want you to do this is because it helps you to become more aware of your physical activity and eating patterns. It helps to identify habits that can be changed. It shows where improvements can be made. It's obviously a record of your achievements. You might think, oh, I actually walked 4 times last week. That's fantastic. Be motivated to achieve what you plan to do. Identify situations that can make you overeat or avoid exercise. That's a really important one, because generally speaking, if I'm talking to a client and I'll ask them, how have you eaten, in the past 7 days? And they will always say, oh, so well. No, I ate really, really well. But then when they show me their food diary, it paints a very different picture. So we tend to sort of reflect with our rose-tinted glasses on, but actually a food diary keeps us really honest and keeps us really accountable. Yes, Tan?
Okay, is that an app we can use?
I will come to that. Yes. So some people do use apps. Yes, it's a great question. I will mention a couple of apps that people use. And yes, of course, it does just help you keep track of your physical activity, meals, and snacks. Now, so as you can see here, now you all won't have this yet because Diabetes Vic won't have sent them to you yet, but this is the hard copy of the workbook. So it's got the sort of session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the spine here. Now in it is that hard copy there that you can see of the food diary. So if you'd like to wait until you get the book, you can absolutely do that, or you can also just use a plain piece of paper. If, like Tanya, would like to use an app, MyFitnessPal is probably the one that most people, I'm not IT savvy at all, but people do say that MyFitnessPal is quite a good one. Easy Diet Diary I've never used, but that's another one that people also like to use. And the Live Lighter, but that's a website, so that's not on your phone as well. Yeah, it can be on your phone, of course, but it's a website. It's not an app as such. But if you've got, some people might already be using an app. So if you've got other suggestions, please mention them. But those are just some common ones that I've come across. So again, you can do 3 days, you can do 5 days, you can do 7 days, do what suits. But I would like you to track everything that you are eating for a period of time between now and our session 2 in a fortnight's time. So wrapping up tonight. So no one's surprised, but diabetes, heart disease, and stroke are serious problems, and we need to do everything that we can to try and avoid developing any of those. This course, we're going to really work together to try and reduce your risk. I'm here to support you, and I am always very happy to help in any way that I can. It's so super important to maintain your health and functional capacity. Like really, if you don't have your health, you actually have nothing. So it's so super important to prioritize your own health and well-being. We're so good at prioritizing our work demands or our family's life, or all these other things, that our own health and well-being tends to drop to the bottom of the pile. But as of today, we're going to become selfish and we're going to start prioritizing ourselves. Lifestyle changes make a real difference to your life in the future. You're not going to benefit from these things today, but you are going to benefit from them in the future. And that's what we're working towards. We're working towards helping our future selves, and that's a really important thing. Energy balance and portion sizes are key. I will say this 1,000 times. A lot of the time, it doesn't matter what you are eating as much. It matters how much you are eating. If you are constantly eating meals that are too large, it will be very, very hard for you to make any change and to lose weight. So being much more aware of your portion sizes and the frequency that you're eating is a really great way to start, an important thing to focus on. Don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about that. So yes, this is when our next session is, which is Tuesday, the 19th of July. That's 2 weeks' time, and they will always be at 7 p.m. They will always be on a Tuesday. We are, yes, catching up again in 2 weeks' time. Let me just stop sharing that for the moment. In this workbook, when you do receive it as well, there's a couple of really great, there's always some good reading, extra reading things to be done as well. So when you do get this, if you just want to have a look at the reading at the back, it's really good and really helpful as well. So these are on their way. They are coming to you, but yeah, we'll probably still be a few days away yet. You have all survived session 1. I hope it wasn't too painful. Does anyone have any questions or comments, or has it? I hope you're all feeling super motivated. Yes, Manny.
Yeah, definitely motivated. Yeah, some good information there. So yeah, all good. Seems to be pretty clear. Just got to change my habits.
It's as simple as that, hey? It's all you got to do. You just got to change your habits, every single one of them. No, it is, yeah. But when you're in the mindset and you're feeling like this is a good time to make changes, it can be a bit easier. It's good to be in the right frame of mind. That's great. Yes, great. Go for it.
Unmute yourself, though.
Yeah, it's off mute. Blood test.
Sorry, I think I just cut out then. What did you say about a blood test?
On measuring your glucose. Is that the only way to do it via blood test?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So you would need to, so the most accurate way to do it is to have a venous sample taken. You can do it by a pinprick, but when you go and do it with the venous, they'll ask you to fast. So then you haven't eaten anything. So that's the most accurate way to get it. So to make sure you haven't eaten anything for 12 hours. So yes, basically.
I've got a question I can't understand. You know how you said about blood clots going in the brain and going into the heart? Where do they come from in the first place?
Well, it really...
Yeah,
sorry.
Is it because the arteries are blocked that it creates a blood clot, or...
No, sometimes it can just be, I mean, Melissa would have, is it Melissa who was the nurse? Melissa would have a much better description than me, but it can just be sort of like salt, like a buildup of sort of salts and proteins and that type of thing. So the blood clot itself, we would all be throwing off blood clots really, like, and some would just be very, very small. So this would happen not all the time, but it would happen. But it's more so when they get sort of blocked. That's when they get trapped. That's the sort of problem when they can't pass through. But it's just like this sort of it's like when there's kidney stones, you know, the sort of byproducts of our body's systems, they can make the sort of small little, I don't know what the right sort of word is, but debris, I suppose, the stuff that our body isn't needing. So, but that can be what can cause the stroke and the heart attack and things, when that little tiny blood clot gets caught, unfortunately. But yes, lots of good reasons to go out and have a walk tomorrow. Okay, everybody? Excellent. Any other questions? Rosemary, Hanan, Melissa, please feel free to ask.
I'm fine, thanks.
Good, excellent. No problem at all. Okay, well, have a lovely fortnight. Make sure you do your food diaries and and I will, yes, look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks, where we talk all things nutrition. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Katie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
See you in
all.
2 weeks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.